Jerry, hold your sign up. Let's try this.
All right, our candidates are from your left to right. Businessman Mike Davis, Gordon Jackson, airport specialist and former president of the DHA, Bob Dallas, an attorney and a former director of the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. And Bob, you have the opportunity for the first opening statement.
Thank you, Dick. I'm Bob Dallas, and it would be my honor to serve you as your next mayor. And I want to thank the DHA for pulling this together. And special thanks to you, Mayor Ken Wright, and the City Council for the work that you have done. You've set our foundation for the future. I've spoken with hundreds of you, one-on-one, and your shared Dunwoody vision is clear. We're a family-friendly city whose best days are ahead. To achieve our vision, though, we need a mayor with experience. I had that experience. First, we want a safe city. I served as the Governor Purdue's director of the Highway Safety Office for almost 8 years and know what needs to be done to keep our streets and homes safe. Second, we want to protect our homes from density and apartments which hurt the value of our homes and our schools. For 12.5 years, I served as Commissioner Lane Boyer's Planning Commissioner, where I worked to protect our single-family homes and worked to close that apartment loophole. And I'm honored to serve as the chair of the Dunwoody Planning Commission, appointed to the Planning Commission by Mayor Ken Wright. And before that, I did serve on the board of the Dunwoody Homeowners Association, where I was chair of the sign committee, speaking of all signs. And the third thing I'd like to point out is I will not raise the millage rate as mayor. That's a commitment I made as one of the original Dunwoody Yes board members. But to prove my commitment, I invite you to look at my involvement with HOST. I chaired the Citizens for Property Tax Relief in DeKalb County, where I worked for almost 2 years to bring DeKalb County homeowners to date the largest homeowner tax relief in the state's history. That's blood, sweat, and tears, and I can assure you I will never allow this city to undo that work that many of us worked on. And nor will I grow government such that the commitments we make today we will have to pay in the future with a tax increase. And fourth, with my experience working on the Dunwoody Transportation Plan, I know what it takes to improve our roads without widening them, which I commit to you. It's been my privilege to serve all of you in Dunwoody for almost 27 years that I've lived here, and I look forward to discussing the issues here tonight. Thank you.
And the next statement for the opener is Mike Davis.
Hi, I'm Mike Davis. I've lived in the Atlanta area for 31 years and been a Dunwoody resident for 22. My wife, Mary Pat, and I have raised our 4 daughters here. I love that my children were able to ride their bikes to the swim and tennis club and also to the village. I love that my grandson can do that now. I've never had to worry about their safety. I can't imagine a better place to live or to have raised my family. I've been in the business world all my life. I started companies from scratch. In order to run for mayor, I recently took a leave of absence as president of My Georgia Doctor Incorporated in Norcross. The company is a medical marketing company that offers primary care solutions to blue-collar employers like landscape firms and restaurants. These employers simply can't afford to offer major medical insurance to their employers, but our low-cost solution has been very effective and popular. We charge a low monthly fee, and the employees can go to any one of our clinics, 17 of them, any one of our doctors, 35 of them, with no copay, no deductible, no charge. We employ 125 people at 17 clinics around the metro area. If I'm elected, I plan to retire from that permanently from My Georgia Doctor. I've spent my adult life raising my family, building my business, and getting involved in organizations that I care about where I think I can make a difference. I've been on the boards of groups like Dunwoody Yes and Murphy Candler Park. I've been president of my swim and tennis club a number of times. 12 years ago, we were building a new clubhouse at Mill Glen, and financing fell through at the last moment. I convinced a group of neighbors to put the money up and actually become the actual mortgage holders. During the height of the dot-com bubble, 9% a year for 15 years didn't look very attractive. But I can assure you now the investors in Mill Glen are very happy with their return. I have the time, the financial security, and energy to be mayor, and I appreciate your support.
Gordon Jackson.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I would like to add my welcome to those of the other candidates this evening. Your presence here is very important to the future of Dunwoody. This is a very pivotal election for Dunwoody. The next mayor and council will set the path of development in the city for many years to come. Over the course of the next few days, you will find there are significant differences among the three of us candidates for mayor, and the choices are clear. Whether you will have unfettered development, whether you will have minimal development, or whether Dunwoody's future path is based on preserving and enhancing the quality of life across the city by engaging in smart growth in all areas is going to depend on who you elect. Who you choose to lead the city will determine how the quality of life issues are dealt with and how they're paid for. While we will get into issues through the questions, this election is also about leadership. Proven Dunwoody leadership. And I submit to you that my 15-plus years in Dunwoody's specific leadership in youth sports as a coach, the chairman of the Peachtree Charter Middle School Governance Council, the president of the Dunwoody Station Homeowners Association, and the president of the Dunwoody Homeowners Association, has given me a strong background in Dunwoody leadership roles and in Dunwoody specific issues. I bring that background to the office of mayor. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to ask the first question. I didn't confer with you, Peter, but I'm going to ask a different question than has been asked yet. Monday night, the council decided not to grant Police Chief Billy Grogan's request for 4 more police officers. And I would ask you the question, do we have enough police? By the way, while you gather your thought on that, you've heard some mention here of the $75,000 for an ice rink. You know it's not an ice rink. It's plastic. And Peter has actually skated on one when he played hockey. And what do you think? How's that skate experience?
Oh, you can't move that quickly on it.
Okay, good. You can't do it. All right. So here's my question. More police. This is a little topical stuff here. The first question goes to Mike Davis.
Okay, thanks, Dick. Do we have enough police? That's your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, broaden it. Would you?
Okay, I'll take it from there. I just want to make sure we were not ice skating now.
No. No.
You know, we have a total number of residents of 47,000, and it swells to over 100,000 during the day. We have a smaller police force per capita than all of the surrounding cities. And I expect we're going to have to beef that up in the future. We have roughly a police officer per 1,000 people. For instance, Chambly has twice that number. They have a police officer for every 500 people. Is our police force doing a good job? I think they are. Is it the #1 line item on our budget? It is now. Is it important? I think it is. We can't be looking at the fact we have 47,000 residents. We have to look at the fact that we have over 100,000 residents during the day. So yes, I believe that in the future, especially as the multifamily housing in this area begins to age and deteriorate, that we're going to have a lot more police.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Gordon?
This is an interesting question because I think as the population increases, and as Mike said, the density increases in the perimeter area particularly, then the police force will have to rise with that. One of the statistics that Chief Grogan gave me recently was that 50% of the petty crime occurs in the PCID area. The reason for that is that's where you have an awful lot of people. In that area also with all of the apartments, and you can see where the apartments are by an analysis of census tract data. When you have that many people in that small a space, then you certainly are going to get issues with it. And I think the police department will have to be right-sized for that. And whether the 4 additional this time was exactly the right number or not, I won't go there because it may not have been. But in the future, the number of police will undoubtedly have to increase, as does the population of the city.
Bob Dallas?
I think, Dick, your question had to do with Chief Grogan's request last Monday night to bring in DDAX, which is data-driven approaches to crime and traffic safety. Under that program, you combine your data associated with crashes and Part 1 crimes to find out exactly where you should put your police to improve the circumstances, reducing crime and improving the safety of the roadway. I think his request was reasonable in that it would have done both. We would see ourselves being a safer city, and we would see it safer both from our kids' perspective when they're driving, as well as the Part 1 crimes, which I know too many of us are complaining about. So I look at what Chief Grogan had proposed and say that was a reasonable request.
All right, thanks, Bob. Peter?
Well, I've asked this of all candidates tonight, and I'll ask you. Gordon, do you support the parks bonds? Why or why not?
Well, the parks bond actually first came up, you guys may realize. Sorry.
Turn your thing around there.
Which that?
The one that says Bob Dallas.
I heard Bob. You got it.
No.
That's Gordon. All right. You got it.
I'm
Thank you,
sorry.
Gordon.
You know, hey, we're getting too serious. What can I say? Peter, thank you very much for that question. Yeah.
I was trying to help you out, Gordon, by answering it first. You should have let me.
This is a very difficult issue. And as I think Terry said and others have said, you know, in talking with people, and I will admit as well that it's the very first question anyone asks me, where am I on the parks bond? First of all, as a youth sports coach for all of these years, I am absolutely in favor of parks and recreation, having recreational opportunities. But right at the moment, we're living in a time of worldwide recession. It is a problem. There are a lot of problems in Dunwoody with respect to folks who have lost their jobs and things of this nature. In this, I will not go out on a limb and say that, yeah, I'm directly in favor of it or not. One of the things that does come to fore, though, is that there are some serious issues with respect to if one bond passes and the other bond doesn't pass, which was a question that was asked a minute ago. I think Dick asked it. There are questions right now this afternoon that we're running around on email and will come out later. I will not get into that at the moment, but there are questions with respect to what actually can happen with one bond versus the other. The issue that I have brought up before is that as your mayor, is that 30 seconds? 15. Oh, as your mayor, we will definitely get into a period of looking at detailing specifics on the park plan for exactly what will be done, whether it passes or whether it doesn't.
Okay, Bob, now you're up.
Now's my chance? All right, start the clock. This really first came up when we were involved with Dunwoody Yes, and we said we would not raise taxes, maintain the same level of services, but if we wanted more, the citizens would get to decide. And I can assure you that as a 12-and-a-half-year planning commissioner for DeKalb County, we would never have been asked that question, but for the fact that we're a city. Having said that, and as you guys know, I have a lot of kids, this city does need parks, and we need ball fields specifically. I know that part of our conversation was we were not getting our share of them here in Dunwoody. And to that end, this is a card we've been dealt. You have been asked whether you want to spend essentially on average 50 cents a day for each bond for the course of 30 years to have parks in your community. The problem is that they're not well developed as a plan. So the question really becomes, if it passes, what are you going to do? If it doesn't pass, what are you going to do? If it passes, I can assure you that we will continue to work to develop a consensus before $1 is spent. That's the problem today. We don't have a consensus on exactly what we should do. Should the ball fields be put here? Should they be put there? What should be done here? What should be done there? That consensus needs to be developed. If they don't pass, once again, that consensus needs to be developed. What should we do? Should we go ahead and put ball fields, for example, in the PVC pipe farm? That's what we say we're going to do with it. Or, on the other hand, should we come back to the citizens with a well-organized plan that they can have certainty with? And I can say this, when I was vice chair of the Driver's Ed Commission, we got a lot of money to spend on driver's ed programs. I was criticized by the popular press for not spending it on bad programs. Jen Wooten gave me a comment that said, thank goodness we have somebody in public office who is willing to spend money the right way and not the wrong way.
Mike?
You know, as Gordon said, I truly believe that the world economy is in serious trouble right now. And those municipalities that end up debt-free are the ones that are going to thrive the best. I think right now is the worst time to be borrowing money. And this is one of the reasons I got into this race in the first place. We have an issue where if both of these bonds pass, they will be the #1 line item on our budget. And I question the logic of that. I've coached 19 teams over the years at St. Jude's and Murphy Candler. I was on the board of directors at Murphy Candler. I love parks. I fought for the girls softball program that was finally built. If you've been down there, it's a magnificent facility now. I was part of that group that was fighting for that years ago. The issue is, though, it comes down to taxes. And the shame is that we've been going out, and we've all talked about, we knock on doors, and that's the first question that comes out of everyone's mouth. You know, where do you stand on parks? And it really comes down to, where do you stand on taxes? And I think right now we're a 3-year-old city. We're not prepared, I don't think, to start raising taxes yet. I think we have to get our sea legs underneath us and establish a decent reserve of cash that in case of emergencies.
Now I'm confused. Is this the third question? So, Bob, you do respond first on this one, okay?
I do.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm going to ask the same question we've asked, because, again, I think it's the most important, which is density. The PCID has offered complicated formulas and figures about their housing needs in terms of multifamily. Rick Callahan mentioned some of that. But nonetheless, we're facing zonings for thousands of apartments in both in the PCID between Dunwoody and Sandy Springs, and I'd like to know how you'd address that density question.
Well, density does drive a lot of things, but the question is the right density in the right place. For example, one of the advantages of being a city is that we're not going to have the kind of bad density in Georgetown, Dunwoody Village, over at Jet Ferry and Mount Vernon. Instead, we have character areas that really reflect what we want. And I think that's one of the best things about being a city, is that we've secured that from the wrong kind of development. When it comes to the PCID, we have to recognize that the PCID represents 1 out of every 4 tax dollar that Dunwoody receives. It's a 100,000 person economic engine. Every day, that's how many people come on both sides of the aisle. So when you consider what that presents in the future development, my response is, I want good growth, not bad growth. The kind of growth that brings professional jobs here. Take into account this one fact. When we look at the future demographics, the aging in place, the baby boomers, they're looking for the kind of product that I think the PCID will offer very well. Owner-occupied homes that they can move from their large Dunwoody home, stay in the neighborhood of Dunwoody, and be near to healthcare facilities, as well as good transit and shopping options. So when I look at the density future for PCID, my question is making sure it's the exact type of density that will bring the kind of people that we want, namely our baby boomers, that will make this place and continue to make this place a great place to live, as well as provide us the income to be a very financially successful city.
Thanks, Bob. And Mike Davis.
You know, a bunch of issues going on here. You know, I talk a lot about the life cycle of the multifamily housing that we look at. And we look at, a good example is the post-Dunwoody units over there at the corner of 285 and North Peachtree. When I first moved here, that was luxury apartments. Now it's where the police spend most of their time. We have an issue with that life cycle. It's a 20-year life cycle from luxury to government housing. And it creates a problem for us. I think we've mentioned earlier that there's a quality issue. Maybe if we make, as Terry Knoll was saying, a higher quality unit perhaps will solve that. Some of my suggestions are that we really have to, you know, cut down on the competition. It's just supply and demand. If we keep on building these things, then the older units continually go down in value. So cut down on the competition. Let's not build as much. Let's get vigorous code enforcement. Let's make sure that we have our code enforcement people there all the time, making sure that this doesn't go down in quality. Because what happens is the new stuff gets built, the code enforcement is lax, and you end up with poorer quality, and the price starts to drop, and then the quality of the people starts to drop. Creating a measuring index is a third step, I think, where we can actually have our code enforcement people creating this measurement and then publishing that on our city website, where people can actually go to look to see how the quality of our multifamily housing is. Thanks.
Okay, and Gordon.
Yes, that's me. The density issue is a very similar issue to the parks issue, and that is it comes up very frequently when talking to people, and I will have to say that I have not spoken with anyone who has said, I think we need more density in the PCID area. The exact counter side of that is where most people come down on it. As Mike said, it is a very complicated issue. The whole issue is wrapped up in economic development issues. It is wrapped up in police issues and security. But one of the things, and I'm not picking on Bob, just simply to use his statistic here, why should an area that puts 25% of the taxes into the coffers swing the dog? We have, the PCID is an area that is the economy of the area. We do have to keep that going and not harm it. But by the same token, smart growth in that area is where we need to be, and we need to be looking at densities. I can tell you as the immediate past president of DHA that there are a number of apartment and condo units which have already been approved in the zoning. They are there. But in dealing with them in the future, we have to look at the infrastructure and what it does to the rest of Dunwoody.
Real quickly, just on that, and I meant to ask this of the others, just give me a short answer, each of you. Should the city be about rezoning some of that was zoned under DeKalb County?
I'll take that first. If we could, but you know, the problem is when you rezone a piece of property, you change the economic value, and the first thing you end up is in court.
Sure. Gordon, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would expect that given the attorneys that we have dealt with already in other zoning issues, we would be seeing friends in court right away.
You won't disagree, will you, Bob?
No, the zoning will be addressed as economic growth occurs, and that's because when the applications come in, they will not be based on the current state of zoning. And that's where I think the experience comes in to make sure that what comes in fits our needs. So yes, the zoning code needs to be rewritten. The developmental code that describes exactly what these buildings look like needs to be rewritten. That's really what Terry was talking about earlier. And through the process of understanding exactly how we want to be in Dunwoody, that is our opportunity to get that right product. So for example, it'll focus on the aging in place population, which I can assure you likes Dunwoody.
Gordon, a lot of candidates have said they support economic development, but what specifically would you do to help bring businesses to Dunwoody?
There are a lot of issues with economic development. First of all, there is, and from my experience in dealing with economic development, first of all, airports and transportation are economic development. But there's no silver bullet in economic development. When the plant site or office site location folks are looking at a new place to go, there may be as many as a dozen on their list, a dozen issues or items that they look at. Robert mentioned schools. Schools is certainly one that is on the list. Transportation and traffic is very, very high on their list, and for us in Dunwoody who live in single-family houses right now, one of the biggest issues is going to be how can I get from the perimeter or how can I get from the PCID area to my house, and how long will it take me? And so we have traffic issues with respect to that. One of the things that we have to also look at is the fact that right now in the perimeter area there are thousands of square feet going begging. Hopefully the economy will turn around and those will begin to infill and come back in. But the city, I think, has got to look, because you know, it's a demand supply and it's a cost factor for any of the companies. If we have impact fees, and I'm not necessarily against impact fees, but if we have that, if we have higher taxes, if we have higher business taxes, the companies are going to look at all of those things with respect to the other locations around us.
Mike, same question.
You know, I look at Dunwoody as we're really very lucky. You know, we're close into Atlanta and we have the PCID. If you drive around the Atlanta area, as I do, and you get off exits 20, 30 miles outside of Atlanta, all you see is huge storefronts, developments, and every storefront is empty. We don't have that problem nearly as bad. It's still not an ideal situation, but we're very lucky that we have what we have here. You know, I think that, you know, I've worked on the economic development team with the Chamber, and it's a hard issue. You know, how much control do we have? I think we just have to keep on making a big deal out of the fact that we're close into Atlanta and we're close into the perimeter area, because we do have advantages that the other areas of the city do not have.
Bob?
Well, you try something uniquely American, you compete. And by that I mean that we work as we are to bring together resources to go out and get that business of a high level, the professional, high-tech kind of businesses, which we are uniquely suited to handle. When Joe DeVito approached me to start a chamber, I said, you know what, we need a chamber to make sure that we have a balanced approach here in Dunwoody. And I now serve on the executive committee of the Dunwoody Chamber of Commerce, which Bill Grant now chairs. So we're working closely with Michael Starling, which is the city's economic development director, who does a great job in pulling resources together. But we also brought in Craig Lesser. I worked with Craig Lesser when he was a state's economic development director under Governor Perdue. And I saw firsthand how he was able to bring Kia to Georgia, which is a tremendous success for Governor Perdue. And moreover, when we look at the chamber in its involvement with the Dunwoody CVB, realize that we had to spend 6 months, I spent 6 months to try to ensure that that was a private sector solution instead of another agency of the city. So we have a great CVB here that is working together to go out there and attract that kind of business. But let me point this out. We're not doing it alone. We have to work with the state, and we have to work with our partners on the other side of the perimeter, which is Sandy Springs, to bring that business here. Never forget, we are a national player when it comes to the perimeter market. We are competing nationally to bring in those companies that allow us to live here, close by, and maintain our high level of community that we have, that we call Dunwoody.
Thanks, Bob. Since you mentioned impact fees, just in no particular order, would you give me your thoughts on impact fees? Mike?
I'll be happy to. You know, as was said earlier, the interesting thing about impact fees is it's kind of like squeezing a balloon. When you squeeze one side of it, it pops out on the other. You take value from somebody, and it has to come out of somewhere. You force a landowner to build in all sorts of impact fees, and you end up with a lower value of property. And if you do it hard enough, they're going to sue you because you've actually taken economic value away from them. Yeah, I love impact fees, but we have to be very, very careful that we don't take it too far.
Gordon?
Impact fees can affect your competitive posture in your marketplace. At DHA at the time, impact fees were discussed. A couple of the attorneys representing large landholders or developers indicated that you know, they'd leave. They'd simply take their business elsewhere given impact fees. Impact fees will work better in a thriving economy. In a down economy, you're probably going to have a lot of trouble with impact fees.
Bob?
We already have an impact fee, Dick. We do. The PCID
Barack
already
Obama?
bills itself 4 mills to raise money. They've raised $25 million that they've leveraged to $105 million. And the question really is, what kind of impact fee? And frankly, the first question I would ask it too is the owners of the property that were seeking an impact fee. So for example, when it comes to the CID footprint, I suspect if you asked them if it was just used to develop a park in perimeter for the residences that will come down the road, would that be okay? That's the kind of question I would ask, because I think they would probably say that makes sense. But if it's going to be monies that are going to be spread around for everybody that they don't see the benefit from, they're going to say no, that's not fair. We saw that in DeKalb County. They had to be sued in order to get it right. To get it right here, I think the point has to be that we focus on the right impact fee as the landowner sees it benefiting the landowner.
Now, as they say in the British Parliament, it's question time. And Mike Davis, you can ask Bob or Gordon one question.
Okay. Bob, I'm going to ask you a question.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Aren't we polite?
We are. Bob, I see in the newspaper that you've raised a lot of money. In fact, more than Gordon Jackson and I combined. Your campaign finance report and the host committee of your campaign appear to be made up of out-of-towners and non-Dunwoody residents. In fact, over 80% are not Dunwoody residents. I see that many of your supporters and contributors are people whose business is doing business with cities like Dunwoody. My question is, do you plan to recuse yourself when there's a conflict of interest when any of these people come before the City Council?
Mike, I am proud of the fact that my supporters include Governor Sonny Perdue, Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle, Speaker of the House of Representatives David Ralston, Attorney General Sam Olens, Labor Commissioner Mark Butler, and our DOT Representative Brandon Beach, because you see, they do influence our success because we can count on them to work with us to make Dunwoody much more competitive. They supported us when we wanted to become a city, and they support us now. And I will point out that the contributors are folks who want to see good government in Dunwoody. And these are folks who have worked to, in many instances, help create Dunwoody. Some of the legal help that we have received that ensured that our code was the right thing came from these contributors. And I just want to point out that, you know, the criticism that is trying to be raised here is, you know, we don't like your contributors. Well, quite frankly, these are people who want to make for a better Dunwoody. And when I see the fact that they've contributed to Sam Olens, to Brandon Beach, our Speaker David Ralston, and Governor Perdue, you know, I think these people are folks who do want to make a better Dunwoody, working with all of us to make a better Dunwoody.
And Bob, if I got this right, yeah, you can ask Gordon or Mike one question.
Right. I will pose this question to Gordon. Gordon, as a planning commissioner for over 15 years, I know the importance of good land use and zoning plans to protect Dunwoody's quality of life. The Perimeter Business District, as we've heard here tonight, has recently completed its third iteration of the Livable Communities Initiative study to guide future growth. What conflicts, if any, do you see between Dunwoody's land use and zoning plans and the LCI?
The LCI gets into a number of issues that, and has a particular format that it is intended to follow. The land use itself is more high-rise, it's higher densities, and also includes multi-use facilities. The land use plan for Dunwoody overall, the comp plan, includes work in the entire city to outline and highlight areas around the entire area. So the LCI and the study is not necessarily at conflict with the Dunwoody land use plan or the comp plan, but there are areas within the perimeter where, you know, like calling 6 lanes on Hammond, I think maybe that's something we need to look at in the future.
Okay, Gordon, you're up. You get to ask Bob or Mike one question.
Oh, okay. I'll take Bob for 200.
Okay.
Thank you, Gordon.
Well, I'm going to go back to Mike's question because what I see as an obvious linkage between the PCID and your campaign does bother me. We talked a minute ago about density. This question, as a matter of fact, I think it was the first question Dick raised tonight. And the density is all in the PCID area, with the exception of those apartments in the Georgetown area. But one of the things that bothers me about that is, first of all, your host committee included a number of attorneys that I happen to know by name, which I will not mention tonight because they also know how to sue people.
Gordon, I'm an attorney, so it's okay.
That's oh, I see. Okay. But one of the things that's out there right now is on your Facebook page, I believe is where it is. There's a video of your fundraiser at McKendrick's, and you were quick to thank all of the PCID folks for being there and doing whatever they did. But the one comment you made, which I really would like to have explained, is your comment was, in talking about the PCID, was that it was a delicate conversation with the citizens. And my question is, why should talking about the PCID be a delicate conversation with citizens?
Well, Gordon, that's a little bit out of context. It's a
No, absolutely not.
I'll put it in context for you, Gordon. It is a conversation with the citizens because I know the citizens want to have good growth in the PCID. That's where our jobs are. Many of us live here and can live here because of that economic engine. It's professionals, highly paid, highly educated. That's exactly what we want. The delicate part of it is we need to balance the kind of growth with the right kind of growth. And that was my point I tried to make earlier. You can always have bad growth, but you can focus on getting good growth. And that's what I want to have as a, yes, very delicate conversation with the citizens because we want to make sure it is right for them as it meets their needs, recognizing that we want to have jobs. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of looking to Washington for all the answers for jobs. I think we can create our jobs here by doing a good job with the right kind of development. And that's exactly what I plan to do. I talked extensively about economic development and how we should go out there and compete and get it and have it come here to the CID district at the highest level. And I'll also point out on the question of density. You know, we do like to talk about the perimeter area because that's going to be a lot of attention. But let's not forget, one of the reasons that I think that the Parks bond can make some sense is because there are some apartment complexes here that I frankly don't like. And if we made fields out of those for our kids to play, I think that'd be great. And I do not want to see that hospital property turn into an apartment complex, which I am very concerned with.
Thanks, Bob. Mike?
No, it's not my turn.
It's not?
I think
We're still on questions. We're done with questions.
Gordon.
We're done with questions. Gordon, stay with it. Closing statement.
I'm sorry. Closing statement. Oh, closing statement. Okay. 2 minutes. Don't start yet. All right, here we go. You ready? Go. All right. My vision for Dunwoody is to preserve and enhance our quality of life and the things which affect us daily. And they include traffic and transportation, which affects our ability to get around, safety and security, and the response times of police and fire services, sidewalks, streetscapes, and green space, which affect both our ability to get around as well as our feeling of well-being, our economic climate, which affects our families, and development densities, which affects all of the factors that I just mentioned. The mayor you choose will have to navigate among these and other issues with reason, and fiscal responsibility is going to be required. And I submit to you that I am that mayor. While Ken Wright was certainly the first mayor of the new city of Dunwoody, being mayor was not entirely new to him because he had already served as the de facto mayor of Dunwoody as the president of the Dunwoody Homeowners Association. Being mayor of Dunwoody will not be entirely new to me either for two reasons. One is my 3 years as the president of DHA have already served as the de facto mayor of Dunwoody. And two, my career as an aviation consultant engaged in facility planning, environmental analyses, financial and economic analyses, and major program management has involved contracts with either city, county, or state governments and included coordination with numerous state and federal regulatory agencies. There will be few issues which will come before the city that I have not already seen. Your mayor must have a background of proven Dunwoody leadership and as one who has led significant Dunwoody organizations. I'm Gordon Jackson, and I am that candidate.
Bob?
I do want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and certainly the DHA for putting this on. And although I was a past president of Sproul Center for the Arts, I was not mayor. I promise you that. My first-hand experience, though, as the director of the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, I believe can be used to keep our streets safe and our homes safe. My first-hand experience is 15 years as a planning commissioner for both Commissioner Boyer and appointed to the commission here by Mayor Ken Wright. I can use to protect our homes, our single-family neighborhoods, and ensure that we don't have the wrong kind of development that hurts our schools, that hurts our neighborhoods. My first-hand experience is serving as a Dunwoody ES board member, where I committed not to raise your taxes. But on top of that, where I chaired the group that brought us the host tax credit, which we still benefit from here in Dunwoody today. I will do nothing to cause our taxes to go up. In fact, I will make sure that we don't make decisions today that put pressure on our millage rate 3 years from now. And I have experience doing that. In my firsthand experience in transportation, where not only did I work as a state highway safety director, but I also worked on our transportation plan. I know that it's working for us. We see that paving today. And quite frankly, I would use that host tax credit that we're getting. Let's go ahead and use it on that transportation plan, which will accelerate the paving, improve our intersections, and synchronize our lights. And I've lived in Dunwoody for over a quarter of a century. And that experience, though, combined with what I've done, doesn't come anywhere close to what you hear in the audience and what your fellow citizens say throughout Dunwoody. I've walked all of Dunwoody's neighborhoods, and I've asked this one question: what's your vision of Dunwoody? And I've learned this from you. It is your vision which guides me, and it's the one that matters the most. And I'll close with this. I would not choose to serve this without the help of my wife, Liz, and my 5 boys. They guide me as we continue to make this a family-friendly city, which quite frankly is a vision that you have shared with me. I do believe Dunwoody's best days are ahead, and I want to thank you, and I ask for your support and your vote.
Thank you, guys.
Wait, one more.
One more. Oh, Mike.
Mike. What about Mike?
Right here in front of me, Mike.
I think I'll take a couple minutes. You know, I got into this race for a number of reasons. I kind of share the view of our founding fathers with citizen politicians, and I truly feel that our country's being destroyed by the political class. We need more people like me to run for office and serve our term and go home. I believe our current city council is made up of exactly that kind of person. I look at Ken Wright and Danny Ross right here. They stepped up, did their civic duty, and are now stepping down. I'm running just to be mayor of Dunwoody. I have no plans for further political office. You know, I'm a little concerned about one of my opponents being so closely aligned to people who want to do business with the city of Dunwoody. I've raised all my campaign funds from friends and family, and not one of my contributors does any business with any cities, nor do they plan to. I had opportunities to accept money from developers and decided not to. So my loyalties lie with the city of Dunwoody. We have issues today that everyone is talking about. Most of them will be settled over the next couple of years. But I think we as voters need to be looking towards the future. This seat is going to be held by one of us for the next 4 years. And we're looking for the character of the person that you want to serve as your mayor, not just how they stand on one issue right now. I have the time, the financial security, and the energy to be mayor, and I would appreciate your support.
Thank you very much. Remember, we do this again Sunday at 3. Gentlemen. And there's a Parks Bond briefing at 1 at Georgia Perimeter College.